The applause echoed across the ballroom, just as I stepped through the entrance with a small wrapped box hidden inside my jacket. I froze before I could even smile. Olivia stood beneath the bright lights, wearing the dark blue dress she once promised to save for our anniversary dinner. She wasn't alone. Her arm rested lightly against Nathan Reed's sleeve. The photographers called their names. Flash after flash painted them as the perfect pair. Nobody noticed me standing near the doorway. Not even her. For a few seconds, I convinced myself there had to be a simple explanation. Maybe she had been asked to greet guests. Maybe Nathan was only another sponsor for the charity event. Maybe my thoughts kept reaching for excuses because my heart wasn't ready for the truth. I pulled my invitation from my pocket. The gold letters reflected under the lights. Guests are welcome to bring one companion. Olivia had told me she needed to work late tonight. I don't think you would enjoy these business events, she had told me that morning while buttoning her coat. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. Tomorrow. That word had become our entire relationship. Tomorrow we would have dinner. Tomorrow we would spend time together. Tomorrow she would finally relax. Tomorrow never came. A waiter passed by with a tray of drinks. I grabbed one even though I barely tasted it. The wrapped gift inside my jacket suddenly felt much heavier. It wasn't expensive. I couldn't afford diamonds or luxury watches. Instead, I had spent 3 weekends building something by hand. A wooden music box. Inside it, I had carved the date we first met. When the lid opened, a tiny melody played the song that had been dancing in the cafe the night she smiled at me for the first time. I imagined giving it to her tonight. I imagined her laughing, maybe even crying. Instead, I stood 30 feet away like a stranger who had walked into the wrong life. Nathan leaned closer to her. She laughed, not the polite smile she gave me lately. A real laugh, bright, warm, the kind I hadn't heard in months. My phone vibrated. Her name appeared on the screen. Working late. Don't wait up. I stared at the message while she stood right in front of me. The lie hurt more than whatever was happening beside her. Someone tapped my shoulder. Ethan. I turned. Lucas looked equally surprised. What are you doing here? I came to surprise Olivia. His eyes drifted toward the stage, then back to me. The concern on his face answered questions I hadn't even asked. You didn't know? My stomach tightened. Know what? Lucas rubbed the back of his neck. I thought she invited you. The room suddenly felt too warm. Invited me to what? He hesitated. It wasn't because he wanted to lie. It was because he wished he didn't have to tell me. They've been attending these events together for almost 2 months. The words landed slowly, one after another, like stones sinking into deep water. I assumed everyone knew. I didn't. He closed his eyes for a second. I'm sorry. Neither of us spoke after that. We simply watched the stage. Olivia accepted a Crystal Award for fundraising. Nathan stood beside her. She thanked sponsors, volunteers, business partners, friends. Then her voice softened. And a special thank you to Nathan. She smiled toward him. You've helped me believe in a future that's bigger than anything I imagined. The audience clapped. Nathan gently squeezed her hand. Nothing romantic, nothing obvious, just enough to make my chest ache. She never once looked toward the entrance, never searched for me, never wondered if I might be there. The host invited Nathan onto the stage. He accepted the microphone with easy confidence. Olivia inspires everyone around her. Another round of applause. I've never met someone who works so hard for the future. Future, that word again. He kept talking about ambition, dreams, success. Every sentence sounded like the conversations Olivia used to have with me before she stopped sharing them, before every discussion became another canceled plan, another late meeting, another empty promise. Lucas quietly stepped beside me. You don't have to stay. I know. Still, I couldn't move. Part of me hoped she would suddenly notice me. Everything would become one big misunderstanding. She would run over, explain everything, laugh about how awkward this looked. Instead, the photographers gathered everyone for pictures. Nathan placed a respectful hand behind her back. She didn't move away. The flashes exploded again. I reached inside my jacket. My fingers touched the small gift. I couldn't give it to her now. Not here. Not like this. A woman carrying a camera accidentally bumped into me. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. She smiled politely before hurrying toward the stage. Another stranger. Another person who probably thought Nathan belonged beside Olivia. Maybe everyone already believed that. Maybe I was the only one still holding on to yesterday. I walked toward the balcony. The cold night air hit my face. For the first time all evening, I could breathe. The city lights stretched across the river. Beautiful. Quiet. Nothing like the noise inside my head. The balcony door opened. Olivia stepped outside. She almost walked past me. Then she noticed. Ethan. Her eyes widened. What are you doing here? A strange question. As if I needed permission to exist near my own girlfriend. I came to surprise you. She glanced back toward the ballroom. You should have told me. I wanted it to be special. Neither of us smiled. She crossed her arms. The event has been stressful. I can see. She misunderstood my words. I've barely had a second to myself. I noticed that too. Her phone buzzed. She looked down immediately. Nathan. His name flashed across the screen before it disappeared. I need to go back inside. So soon. They're waiting. The answer came without hesitation. Not. We're waiting. Not. Can you stay? Just. They're waiting. I reached into my jacket. The small wrap box rested in my palm. This was for you. She looked at it, then toward the ballroom doors again. Ethan, you can open it later. I don't think now is the right time. The gift remained between us. Neither one of us moved. Finally, I slipped it back into my pocket. It's okay. I'll call you tonight. You already did. Confusion crossed her face. I unlocked my phone. Her message glowed on the screen. Working late. Don't wait up. She stared at it. No explanation came. No excuse. Only a long breath. I didn't want to argue before the event. I wasn't planning to argue. Another pause. I'll explain later. She turned toward the door. The conversation ended because she decided it had ended. Not because we solved anything. The ballroom swallowed her again. I stayed outside until the applause returned. Then I walked away. No one stopped me. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every traffic light gave me another chance to convince myself I had imagined everything. Maybe Nathan was only a colleague. Maybe the photos meant nothing. Maybe the apartment greeted me with darkness. I switched on the kitchen light. Dinner sat on the table. Pasta, covered with plastic wrap. Cold, untouched. A sticky note rested beside the plate. Sorry, eat without me. The handwriting looked rushed. Just like every message lately. I stood there for a long time. The food, the empty chair, the silence. It wasn't really about dinner. It was about every evening that looked exactly like this. I removed the plastic wrap. The food had already dried around the edges. I threw it into the trash. Not because I was angry, because neither of us had believed we would eat it together. The rap music box still rested in my pocket. I placed it carefully on the kitchen counter. It deserved better than tonight. Maybe I did too. Hours passed. The clock reached midnight. No call. 1 o'clock. Still nothing. I unlocked my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. I opened our old photos instead. Beach trips. Movie nights. Birthday candles. Camping. Back then, she always reached for my hand. Somewhere along the way, she stopped. I just never admitted it. The front door finally opened after 2 in the morning. Olivia stepped inside quietly. She kicked off her heels and looked surprised to find me awake. You're still up. I couldn't sleep. She placed her purse on the table. You should have. I tried. Her eyes drifted toward the wrapped gift. You kept it. I wasn't sure if you still wanted it. A tired sigh escaped her lips. Ethan, tonight wasn't the best night. I noticed. She walked into the kitchen. There was networking. Sponsors. Investors. I understand. You really don't. She leaned against the counter. My career is changing. I've supported that. I need people around me who understand where I'm going. The sentence lingered between us, painfully unfinished. I waited. She never added. Like you, she didn't have to. The meaning was already there. I've always believed in you. I know, but belief doesn't open doors. That one hurt. Not because it was cruel, because she believed it. I should get some sleep. She picked up the gift, held it for a moment, then placed it back on the counter without opening it. Tomorrow. Again. Tomorrow. She disappeared into the bedroom. The door clicked shut. I stayed in the kitchen until sunrise, watching the unopened gift. watching the empty chair across the table, watching a relationship that seemed to exist only because neither of us had officially ended it. Morning arrived with pale sunlight. Olivia had already left. No goodbye, only another note. Busy day. See you tonight. I crumpled the paper. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion. I started cleaning the apartment because I needed something to do besides think. Old magazines, receipts, mail, bills, everything went into neat piles. When I opened the desk drawer, a white envelope slid onto the floor. It looked expensive, heavy paper, gold lettering. At first, I thought it was another business invitation. Then I saw the names. Reservation confirmation. Grand Crescent Hotel. My heart slowed. 2 guests. Luxury weekend suite. Check-in date. The exact weekend of our anniversary trip. The names printed underneath stole every breath I had left. Olivia Brooks. Nathan Reed. I read them again, hoping they would somehow change. They didn't. The hotel reservation stayed on the kitchen table long after the sun came up. I had already read it more times than I wanted to admit. Every word stayed the same. Grand Crescent Hotel. Luxury weekend suite. Olivia Brooks. Nathan Reed. The same weekend, we were supposed to celebrate our anniversary. I wanted to believe there had to be another explanation. A business event. A booking mistake. Anything. But excuses were beginning to sound louder than the truth. The front door opened just after 6 that evening. Olivia stepped inside, carrying her laptop bag. She smiled without really seeing me. You're home early. The envelope rested between us. Her smile disappeared. She placed the bag on the floor, but didn't move any closer. What did you find at? In the desk drawer. A long breath escaped her. I was going to tell you. When? No answer came. The day we checked into the hotel. She rubbed her forehead. It isn't what you think. I've been telling myself that for months. She reached for the envelope. My hand stayed on it. I just want the truth. You deserve that. Those words sounded almost comforting. Then she ruined them. Nathan invited me because investors will be there. Our anniversary will be there too. It's only one weekend. I stared at her. Only one weekend? This could change my career. What about us? Her shoulders dropped. Ethan, no speeches. No excuses. The room became painfully quiet. I've been standing beside you for 5 years. I know. I celebrated every promotion. I know. I worked extra hours so you could finish your master's degree. I know. I never asked you to choose between me and your dreams. She nodded slowly. You didn't. Then why does it feel like your dreams only have room for one person? She closed her eyes for a moment. I've changed. I noticed. I want more from life. So do I. Her voice became softer. You want a simple life. I wanted a life with you. That's different. The sentence settled inside me like ice. She wasn't angry. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She honestly believed those words. That made them even harder to hear. She walked toward the window. The people I'm meeting now. Her fingers touched the curtain. They think differently. They have money. They have opportunities. They understand ambition. I stepped closer. And I don't. She faced me again. You work hard. But you'll always be comfortable where you are. You already decided who I am. She didn't deny it. I don't want to struggle forever. We weren't struggling. We were surviving. The difference mattered to her. It had never mattered to me. We could have built everything together. She shook her head. That takes too long. The words hit harder than the hotel reservation. Not because she wanted success. Because she believed I wasn't worth waiting for. My fingers slowly released the envelope. So Nathan can give you the future I can't. I didn't say that. You don't have to. Her silence finished the sentence. I walked into the bedroom. She followed a few steps behind. What are you doing? I opened the closet, pulled my suitcase onto the bed. Her eyes widened. Ethan, I finally understand. Don't do this because you're upset. I'm doing this because I'm awake. I folded my shirts one by one. She stayed near the doorway. You'll calm down. I've spent months calming myself down. Another shirt disappeared into the suitcase. You always come back after we argue. This isn't an argument. What is it? I zipped one side of the suitcase. It's the day I stopped pretending. She stepped closer. You really think I'm leaving you for Nathan? I think you've already left. The bedroom suddenly felt smaller. She sat on the edge of the bed. I never cheated on you. The sentence hung in the air. Maybe it was true. Maybe it wasn't. It almost didn't matter anymore. You stopped choosing me a long time ago. I've just been busy. Busy people still answer messages. Her eyes drifted toward the floor. Busy people still remember anniversaries. She remained quiet. Busy people don't introduce another man as the person who understands their future while their boyfriend watches from across the room. Her lips parted. You were there. I was. She covered her face for a second. You should have told me. I wanted to surprise you. I didn't know. Exactly. The room fell into another heavy pause. She stood again. What happens if you leave? I learn who I am without begging for attention. I've never wanted you to beg. You didn't have to. My passport went into the front pocket. My toothbrush followed. The simple sound of packing echoed through the room. She watched every movement. Still, she never reached for the suitcase. You'll regret this. I smiled sadly. I've been regretting something for months. What? Staying after I realized I was fighting alone. Her eyes became glassy. This isn't fair. I agree. Another painful pause stretched between us. Then something changed inside me. The anger disappeared. Not because everything was okay. Because I finally accepted it wasn't. I hope you get everything you've been chasing. She blinked. What does that mean? It means I love you enough to stop standing in your way. Her face tightened. Ethan, I also love myself enough to stop standing in my own way. She took one slow step forward. I don't know what to say. You don't have to. I lifted the suitcase. She moved aside automatically. That tiny movement broke something inside me. Not because she pushed me away, because she made room for me to leave without thinking. I stopped beside the front door. The apartment looked exactly the same. Our couch, our framed vacation photos, the bookshelf we built together. Nothing had changed, except me. My hand reached into the drawer beside the entrance. The spare apartment key rested there. I placed it on the table. She stared at it. You're really leaving? Yes. When will you come back? I met her eyes. I'm not. Her breathing became uneven. You can't just throw away 5 years. I didn't. I opened the door. It happened one canceled promise at a time. The hallway felt strangely peaceful. The elevator doors closed. She never called my name. Lucas answered on the second ring. You okay? No. Where are you? Parking lot. I'll be there. He arrived 20 minutes later, carrying 2 coffees. He handed me one without asking questions. We sat on the hood of my car. The evening breeze carried the smell of rain. I finally left. I know. You know. Your face told me weeks ago. A small laugh escaped me. It lasted less than a second. I kept thinking love could fix everything. Lucas stared toward the apartment building. Love fixes problems. He took a sip of coffee. It doesn't fix people who stop trying. Those words stayed with me. We drove around the city for almost an hour. No loud advice. No speeches. Just quiet company. Sometimes that helped more than answers. 3 days later, I moved into a tiny apartment across town. The walls were plain. The furniture barely matched. The bedroom window overlooked another apartment building instead of the river. Still, the place felt honest. Nothing inside, it reminded me of broken promises. The silence belonged to me, not to someone who never came home. I unpacked the suitcase. One shirt, one plate, one coffee mug. My life suddenly fit inside a few cardboard boxes. It should have made me feel empty. Instead, it felt lighter than carrying hope alone. Work became my escape. Every morning I arrived before everyone else. Every evening I stayed until the lights dimmed. Design projects filled the hours my thoughts used to occupy. Grace noticed. She always noticed everything. She stopped beside my desk one afternoon. You've skipped lunch 3 days in a row. I'm not hungry. She folded her arms. Liar. A faint smile reached my face. You always know. I've lived long enough. She pulled out the chair across from me. So, I leaned back. I moved out. I'm sorry. I'm not sure whether I want sympathy or congratulations. You probably deserve both. That almost made me laugh. She glanced at the unfinished design on my screen. You're working too much. It keeps my mind busy. It also keeps your heart from healing. I don't know how to do that. Grace rested both hands on the desk. Start by asking yourself one question. I waited. If your best friend told you this exact story. She smiled gently. Would you tell him to stay? The answer arrived before I could think. No. Then stop giving yourself worse advice than you'd give someone else. She stood. One more sentence followed before she walked away. Don't confuse loyalty with self-destruction. That night my phone lit up. Olivia. One missed call. Then another. Finally a message. Can we talk? My thumb hovered above the screen. I locked the phone instead. 5 minutes later, another message appeared. I wasn't expecting you to actually leave. The words made me close my eyes. She thought I would come back. Just like always. Another message. Please answer. I placed the phone face down. The apartment stayed quiet. No arguments. No waiting. Only the sound of rain tapping against the window. Saturday morning brought another surprise. Someone knocked on my door. Lucas stood there holding a paper bag. I brought breakfast. You didn't have to. I know. He walked inside anyway. The smell of fresh pastries filled the apartment. He looked around the small living room. It suits you. It's tiny. It's peaceful. That word stayed between us. Peaceful. I hadn't realized how long it had been since I used that word about my own home. Lucas noticed the unopened boxes. You can unpack those? Eventually, he picked up one framed photo of Olivia and me. You keeping this? I studied the smiling couple inside the frame. They looked happy. They also looked like strangers. I opened a drawer, placed the photo inside, then closed it. Not today. Lucas nodded once. No lecture. No celebration. Just understanding. Monday evening I stayed late at work again. The office slowly emptied. My computer screen glowed against the dark windows. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I opened the message. Only one sentence appeared. You don't know me, but Nathan is hiding something Olivia desperately needs to know. Another message arrived before I could react. My name is Claire Reed. I'm Nathan's sister. The message stayed on my phone long after everyone else had gone home. My name is Claire Reed. I'm Nathan's sister. I read it again. Then another message appeared. Please meet me before it's too late. This isn't about getting Nathan in trouble. It's about stopping someone else from getting hurt. My thumb hovered over the screen. Every part of me wanted to ignore it. Nathan had already taken enough from my life. Why should I step back into that world? Still, one question refused to leave my mind. What if Olivia really was walking into something worse than betrayal? I typed one short reply. Tomorrow. Noon. Riverside Cafe. The cafe overlooked the river where Olivia and I had once spent lazy Sunday afternoons. Back then, we talked about little things. Movies. Vacation plans. The tiny house we dreamed of buying one day. Those memories felt like they belonged to another man. Claire was already waiting when I arrived. She stood as I walked over. She looked nothing like Nathan except for the eyes. The same sharp blue. The same calm expression. Only hers carried guilt instead of confidence. Thank you for coming. I almost didn't. I wouldn't have blamed you. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup without drinking. I've heard a lot about you. I'm guessing not from Nathan. A tired smile crossed her face. No, you wanted to tell me something. I did. She reached into her bag. A thick folder landed gently on the table. I wish I didn't have this. I didn't touch it. What's inside? My brother's pattern. The words sounded strange. Pattern? She nodded. Nathan doesn't fall in love. A cold feeling settled inside me. He finds people who admire him. She slowly opened the folder. Photos, business articles, printed emails, newspaper clippings. I've watched this happen 3 times. My eyes moved across the papers. Different women, different years, different cities. Yet every story looked painfully similar. They're all successful. Claire pointed toward one photo. Lawyer. Another. Architect. Another. Financial consultant. What happened to them? They believed Nathan loved them. My stomach tightened. Then, he convinced each of them to give up pieces of their lives. She slid one article closer. This one left her partnership because Nathan promised they would build a company together. Another document followed. This woman moved across the country. And this one, Claire paused, walked away from her own family because Nathan told her they were holding her back. I stared at the photographs. None of the women looked happy in the later pictures. Every smile seemed smaller. Every posture seemed heavier. They all disappeared from his life. Claire nodded. Once they depended on him completely. My voice came out quietly. Olivia still has her job. For now, the folder stayed open between us. I finally looked up. Why tell me? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched the river outside the window. Because I stayed quiet before. Her fingers trembled slightly. I kept believing Nathan would change. He didn't. No. A slow breath escaped her. My silence helped him. I leaned back. Does Olivia know any of this? No. Does anyone? Our parents pretend everything is fine. She laughed once. It carried no happiness. They care more about reputation than truth. I rubbed my forehead. This could all be fake. It could. She pushed another envelope toward me. Open it. Inside were printed text messages. Nathan. Different dates. Different women. Different promises. The words almost matched. You're the only person who understands me. Trust me. Leave that job. You don't need anyone except me. Each message felt carefully designed. Not emotional. Strategic. These are real. Yes. How'd you get them? They were left behind. She lowered her eyes. Not everyone erased their memories. I left the cafe, carrying the folder. It felt heavier than paper. The afternoon sun warmed the streets, but my thoughts stayed cold. Every few minutes I asked myself the same question. Do I tell Olivia? She had chosen Nathan. She had chosen money. She had chosen a future without me. Why should I save her? Another voice answered immediately. Because you're not him. That answer didn't make the decision easier. Lucas came over that evening. The folder rested unopened on my kitchen table. He noticed it right away. Looks serious. It is. He sat across from me. I explained everything. The messages. The photos. Claire. Nathan's past. Lucas stayed quiet until I finished. Then he folded his arms. What are you going to do? I don't know. You still love her. The words came too quickly. I don't know if I love who she is now. But you don't want to watch her get destroyed. I walked toward the window. Cars moved below like nothing in the world had changed. I'm tired. Of what? Being responsible for someone who stopped being responsible for us. Lucas nodded slowly. That's fair. I warned her. You did. I stayed. You did. I fought. You did. I turned back toward him. How many chances does one person deserve? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood and placed one hand on my shoulder. Just don't confuse helping someone with carrying them. Days passed. The folder remained inside my desk drawer. Every morning, I considered calling Olivia. Every evening, I closed the drawer again. Meanwhile, her messages became more frequent. Can we please talk? Unread. I miss you. Unread. The apartment feels empty. Unread. Please answer. Unread. Watching those messages pile up felt cruel. Reading them hurt. Replying would hurt even more. Another week slipped by. Work became my shelter again. Grace noticed my distracted face. You've been somewhere else all morning. I'm trying to decide something. She carried 2 coffees to my desk. Big decision. The biggest. I told her about Claire. Not every detail. Just enough. Grace listened without interrupting. When I finished, she stirred her coffee slowly. Do you know what's interesting? What? You keep asking whether Olivia deserves another warning. I guess I do. She smiled gently. You're asking the wrong question. What should I ask? Can you warn her without losing yourself again? I thought about that. The answer didn't come. A few days later, I accidentally saw Olivia. Not face to face. Across the street. She stood outside an expensive restaurant with Nathan. Something felt different. She wasn't smiling. Nathan spoke while pointing toward a black car waiting nearby. She tried to answer. He interrupted. Even from that distance, I could see frustration on her face. She glanced toward her phone. Nathan reached out. His hand covered the screen. Then he gently lowered her arm. Not violent. Not loud. Just controlling. She slipped the phone into her purse. The gesture lasted only a few seconds. Still, it reminded me of the messages Claire had shown me. Little by little. Choice by choice. The next morning, another message arrived. This time, Olivia sent a picture. Our bookshelf. Half empty. I packed some of your things. I stared at the photo. Then another message followed. I found a music box. My breathing slowed. She had finally opened it. Minutes later, I didn't know you made it yourself. Another pause. Then, I'm sorry I never opened it that night. My fingers rested on the phone. One reply. That was all it would take. Instead, I locked the screen. The following Friday, Lucas called me. You seen the news? No. Check social media. I opened the business section. Nathan's smiling face filled the screen. He had announced another investment project. The comments underneath looked different. Questions, rumors, people arguing. Nothing confirmed. Just whispers. Lucas spoke again. Something feels off. I know. Later that afternoon, Claire sent another message. He's changing Olivia already. A photo followed. Olivia sat at a dinner table. She wore plain clothes instead of the colorful dresses she used to love. Nathan sat beside her. His arm rested across the back of her chair. The picture looked perfect until I noticed her expression. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't even looking at the camera. Another message appeared. She quit one of her charity boards yesterday because Nathan said it wasted her time. I closed my eyes. That didn't sound like Olivia. She loved that charity. She had spent years building it. Another week passed. The unread messages kept growing. Then one evening, my phone rang. Olivia. Again. This time she left a voicemail. I almost deleted it. Instead, I pressed play. Ethan. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I don't even know if you'll hear this. A shaky breath reached the speaker. I've been thinking about us. Another pause. I finally opened your gift. The music box played softly in the background. The tiny melody I had carved with my own hands. I don't know why I'm calling. Silence. Then one last sentence. I think I've made a terrible mistake. The message ended. I sat there for a long time. The apartment felt unusually quiet. Part of me wanted to drive straight to her. Another part remembered the hotel reservation, the gala, the packed suitcase, the key left on the table. Healing wasn't only about forgiving someone. Sometimes healing meant refusing to become the place they returned whenever life became difficult. Monday morning arrived with heavy rain. Grace stopped beside my desk. You look exhausted. I listened to an old voicemail. Did it change anything? I thought about it. No. Then let the past stay in the past. I wish it were that easy. It isn't. She smiled sadly. But easy and necessary are rarely the same thing. That afternoon, I left work to grab coffee. While waiting in line, I noticed another familiar face. Nathan. He stood near the entrance, talking on his phone. His smile disappeared the moment he noticed me. He walked over. Ethan. Nathan. He adjusted the expensive watch on his wrist. I heard you moved out. I did. I'm sorry things ended that way. You sound surprisingly concerned. A faint smile appeared. I don't enjoy seeing people get hurt. The words almost made me laugh. I'll remember that. He leaned slightly closer. Olivia needs stability. Then give it to her. I intend to. His confidence never cracked. Not even for a second. He walked away before I could answer. Watching him leave, one thought echoed through my mind. He spoke about Olivia the same way someone talked about buying another company. Not a partner. A possession. Wednesday afternoon changed everything. News alerts suddenly appeared across every phone in the office. Employees gathered around computer screens. Voices grew louder. Someone whispered, "Isn't that Nathan Reed?" I opened the article. Authorities had started investigating one of his investment companies. No charges. No arrests. Only an official financial investigation. Still, the perfect image had cracked. My phone vibrated. Another unknown number. Then I heard footsteps racing through the office entrance. Every conversation around me faded. Olivia stood just outside the glass doors. Rain soaked her hair. Tears mixed with the water on her face. She searched the office until our eyes met. Behind her, television screens inside the lobby replayed Nathan's name across every news channel. Olivia stood outside the glass doors, soaked by the rain. People around me kept talking about Nathan. Television screens repeated the same breaking news. Financial investigation begins into Reed Capital Holdings. Nobody inside the office noticed the woman waiting outside. I noticed only her. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not because she had changed physically. The confidence that once filled every room had disappeared. Her hand shook while holding her phone. The screen lit up, then went dark again. She wasn't calling anyone anymore. She already knew who she wanted to see. I stepped outside. Cold rain landed on my face. For a moment, neither of us spoke. You came. Her voice barely rose above the sound of passing cars. You were standing in the rain. I didn't know where else to go. Water dripped from her hair onto her coat. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. She looked exhausted, not from one bad day, from weeks of carrying something too heavy. I can't stay long. She nodded. I understand. Another pause stretched between us. I know this isn't fair. No, it isn't. She lowered her head. I deserve that. I glanced toward the busy street. People hurried past us without slowing down. The world kept moving. Ours had stopped months ago. What do you want from me? Her fingers tightened around the phone. One conversation. About Nathan? About everything. Rain continued falling. I'll listen. Relief crossed her face for only a second. Then it disappeared. Not here. We met at the small park near the river. The same place where we once celebrated my birthday with cheap sandwiches because neither of us had much money. Back then, we laughed about our empty wallets. Now money had become the reason we stood on opposite sides of a wooden bench. The rain had stopped. Everything still smelled fresh. She sat first. I remained standing for another moment before taking the opposite end of the bench. A careful distance stayed between us. I almost didn't come. I know. You ignored every message. I needed to. She nodded slowly. I kept thinking you'd answer eventually. I kept thinking you'd stop sending them. A sad smile touched her face. I deserve that too. She reached into her purse. The music box appeared in her hands. Its wooden surface looked almost untouched. I've carried this everywhere. My eyes stayed on the tiny carving. The date we first met. She ran one finger across it. I finally understood how much love was inside this. It took me 3 weekends. Tears filled her eyes. It deserved better. It did. Another quiet moment passed. The little music box stayed between us like a memory neither of us could erase. I was ashamed to open it. I looked at her. Why? Because I knew I didn't deserve it anymore. She carefully closed the lid. The melody faded. I thought success would solve everything. Her voice sounded steady at first. Then it cracked. I kept telling myself I was building a better future. You were, but not with the right person. She wiped one tear away before it could fall. Nathan made everything look easy. I stayed quiet. He always knew what to say. She laughed softly. I thought confidence meant safety. The laugh disappeared. It didn't. My hands rested together. What happened? She stared across the river. Little things. Like, he started choosing my clothes. Another pause. He said certain friends were bad for my image. The words matched Claire's warnings almost exactly. I stopped seeing people. She took a slow breath. I thought I was making sacrifices for love. And then I realized I was only making sacrifices. She finally turned toward me. He never gave anything up. The wind pushed loose leaves across the path. Children played farther down the park. Their laughter felt strangely distant. When did you realize? The night I found your apartment empty. She looked down. I expected you to come back. I know. I really believed you'd cool off. A weak smile crossed my face. I spent years proving I'd stay. I took that for granted. The honesty hurt more than another lie would have. I never imagined you would choose yourself. I almost didn't. She closed her eyes briefly. That scares me. What? The idea that I pushed away the only person who loved me without asking for anything. I thought about all the nights waiting beside cold dinners. All the birthdays rearranged around her meetings. The unopened gift. The hotel reservation. I did ask for something. She looked confused. What? To matter? She couldn't answer. The silence spoke for both of us. I failed. Yes. I kept chasing people who could give me more. Her shoulders slumped. I never realized I already had enough. The words landed gently. Months ago, they would have saved us. Now they arrived too late. I don't expect you to forgive me. I already have. She looked up quickly. You have. I couldn't keep carrying that anger. Hope briefly returned to her face. So, I shook my head before she could finish. Forgiveness isn't the same as going back. The hope disappeared again. I know. You hurt me. I know. We hurt each other. She frowned. I don't think you hurt me. I stayed too long. I looked toward the river. I kept loving someone who had already stopped choosing us. She reached into her purse again. This time she pulled out a folded photograph. The two of us stood in front of the beach during our second vacation. Sand covered my shoes. She laughed at something outside the frame. I kept this in my wallet. Her thumb rested against the picture. Every day. So did I. Slowly, I opened my wallet. The same photo waited inside. The edges had become worn over the years. I studied it one last time. The couple smiling back at me believed love could survive anything. They had no idea how fragile trust could become. Without speaking, I removed the photograph. My fingers held it for a few seconds. Then I placed it beside her on the bench. I think this belongs to the past now. A tear finally slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. You really mean goodbye? I do. She covered her face with both hands. Not dramatically, just quietly, as though she had run out of strength. I've lost almost everyone. What happened? The investigation started. Her voice remained low. The people who always wanted invitations suddenly stopped calling. She let out a bitter laugh. My phone became very quiet. I remembered how mine had stayed quiet for months. Nobody wants to be connected to Nathan. And Nathan, she looked toward the ground. He keeps telling me everything will be fine. You don't believe him? No. She swallowed hard. I found emails. My attention sharpened. What kind? The kind that matched everything Claire warned me about. She shook her head slowly. I didn't listen. Nathan wanted me to resign. From work? She nodded. He said successful couples shouldn't compete. The sentence almost sounded absurd. He wanted me to depend on him. I almost agreed. Her voice became smaller. If you hadn't left. She stopped herself. If I hadn't left, I would have believed everything he told me. She looked straight at me. Losing you forced me to see who he really was. Those words settled heavily inside me. The strange part was, I didn't feel victorious, only tired. Life had already punished her more than revenge ever could. I owe you an apology. She took a deep breath. A real one. I waited. I lied. Another breath. I embarrassed you. Her fingers twisted together. I made you feel invisible. She struggled to continue. I treated your kindness like something that would never disappear. Tears rolled freely now. I confused patience with weakness. Her voice almost broke completely. And I believed money could replace the peace I felt beside you. I listened without interrupting. No anger remained, only sadness. When she finished, neither of us moved. The wind carried the last notes of the music box as she accidentally brushed against it. The tiny melody lasted only a few seconds, enough to remind us of another life. I've spent weeks asking myself one question. She looked toward me again. If I had chosen differently. Her sentence faded. I answered anyway. We'll never know. I hate that. So do I. She smiled sadly. But you still love me. The question stayed in the air. I thought carefully before answering. I'll always care about the woman you used to be. Her eyes filled again. But I can't build a future with someone I'm hoping will become that person again. She nodded. I understand. I finally learned something. What? Love without respect eventually becomes pain. The afternoon sun broke through the clouds. Light reflected across the river. Everything looked peaceful. Life had a strange way of choosing beautiful days for painful endings. I've been thinking about all the things you did for me. She smiled through tears. The late nights helping me study. The cheap dinners. The long walks. The little notes you left inside my lunch. She laughed softly. I never thanked you enough. You don't have to. I do. She straightened her shoulders. Thank you for loving me when I didn't even know how to love myself. The words stayed with me. I hope one day you become the person you wanted to be. She frowned slightly. I don't know who that is anymore. You'll figure it out. Without you. Yes. She slowly stood. So, this is really it. It is. I want to ask you to come back. A weak smile appeared. I've already asked too much. I rose from the bench. The distance between us remained. Not because we hated each other. Because some bridges should stay closed once they've burned. I hope you find peace. You too. She picked up the old photograph, held it against her heart, then carefully placed the music box back in her purse. I'll keep this. I'm glad. It reminds me that real love existed. It did. And I threw it away. She took one slow step backward, then another. Finally, she turned and walked toward the parking lot. She never looked back. Neither did I. The strange thing about goodbye wasn't the tears. It was how ordinary everything around it seemed. Cars still passed. Birds still sang. Children still laughed. The world never paused just because two people lost each other. That evening, I returned to my apartment. The place felt different. Not emptier. Lighter. My phone buzzed. Lucas. How'd it go? It's over. You okay? I thought about the question. The answer surprised me. I think I'm finally becoming okay. I'm proud of you. Thanks. He hesitated. No regrets. I looked toward the window. I regret the pain. A slow breath escaped me. I don't regret walking away. After the call ended, I noticed something sticking out beneath my apartment door. A cream-colored envelope. No stamp. No address. Only my name written across the front, in handwriting I knew by heart. My fingers hesitated before opening it. Inside rested several folded pages. The paper looked worn, as though it had been carried for a long time. The first line stole my breath. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I waited too long to tell you the truth. The envelope stayed unopened for several minutes. It rested on my kitchen table beside my keys. I already knew the handwriting. I already knew the person who had written every letter. Still, opening it felt harder than walking away from our apartment. Finally, I unfolded the first page. The paper carried a faint smell of perfume. Not enough to bring back the past. Just enough to remind me it had once existed. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I waited too long to tell you the truth. I stopped there. The apartment was completely quiet. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. I kept reading. You once asked me when everything changed. I didn't answer because I was afraid the answer would make me look like someone I didn't want to become. My fingers tightened around the paper. Nothing happened all at once. I started comparing our life to everyone else's. Every promotion online, every expensive vacation, every perfect picture. Little by little, I convinced myself that love wasn't enough. Another pause. Those words sounded painfully honest. You never made me feel poor. I made myself feel poor because I forgot to count the things money couldn't buy. My eyes drifted toward the small apartment. It wasn't large. It wasn't luxurious. But it had become a place where I could finally breathe. The next page waited. I turned it carefully. Nathan didn't steal me from you. I walked away one choice at a time. That is something I will regret for the rest of my life. A slow breath escaped me. For months, I had imagined blaming someone. Nathan, money, success. The truth was much simpler. People made choices. Those choices made consequences. Another paragraph caught my attention. The night you brought me the music box, I knew I had already started breaking your heart. I couldn't open it because I knew I hadn't earned it anymore. I kept telling myself I would fix everything tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. My eyes closed. Tomorrow, the word that had followed us until the very end. The final page carried only a few lines. If life gives you another chance to be happy, please don't waste it waiting for me. Love someone who chooses you even on ordinary days. Thank you for loving me better than I loved you. Goodbye. The letter ended there. No request. No excuse. No promise. Only goodbye. I folded every page carefully, then placed them back inside the envelope. For the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't cry. Some stories didn't need more tears. They only needed acceptance. The following morning, sunlight filled my apartment. The same apartment that had once felt temporary. Now it felt like home. I made coffee, opened every curtain, played quiet music while getting ready for work. Simple things. Things I hadn't enjoyed in a long time. My phone buzzed. Lucas. Breakfast. A smile reached my face. Give me 20 minutes. The cafe smelled like fresh bread and coffee beans. Lucas slid a plate toward me. You actually look rested. I slept. That's new. A laugh escaped both of us. He studied my face for a second. You read the letter. I did. And I stirred my coffee slowly. It didn't change the ending, but it helped me understand it. He nodded. That's enough. Weeks became months. Life stopped feeling like something I had to survive. It slowly became something I could enjoy again. Projects at work grew larger. New clients trusted my designs. Grace walked into my office one afternoon carrying a folder. She placed it on my desk with a proud smile. Congratulations. I looked inside. A promotion. Senior Creative Director. For a moment, I simply stared at the paper. I wasn't expecting this. You earned it. She folded her arms. Not because you worked the longest hours. A warm smile crossed her face. You finally started believing in yourself. Those words meant more than the promotion. Months earlier, I had measured my worth through someone else's attention. Now, my confidence belonged to me. That evening, Lucas insisted on celebrating. Grace joined us after work. The small restaurant wasn't fancy. Nobody cared. Lucas raised his glass. To Ethan. Grace laughed. To the man who finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. I shook my head. You two make me sound dramatic. Lucas grinned. You were. I know. You also survived it. That part was true. Not because someone rescued me. Because I finally rescued myself. Another season passed. The trees turned golden. Cool air replaced the summer heat. Life kept moving forward. One Saturday morning, I decided to clean my apartment. Old boxes still waited inside the closet. I opened the first one. Movie tickets. Birthday cards. Small souvenirs from trips Olivia and I had taken together. Months ago, those memories would have destroyed me. Now, they simply reminded me of another chapter. I smiled gently. Thank you. The words weren't meant for anyone in the room. They were meant for the life I had lived. I packed everything into one small memory box. Not because I wanted to erase the past, because I no longer needed to carry it every day. Claire sent one final message a few weeks later. The investigation is over. Nathan accepted a settlement and disappeared from public life. Another message followed. Thank you for listening when I needed someone to believe me. I replied almost immediately. Take care of yourself. Nothing more needed to be said. Olivia never contacted me again. Neither did I contact her. Some endings remained beautiful because they stayed finished. Winter arrived. Snow covered the sidewalks. My apartment window overlooked a quiet street filled with soft white light. I bought my first real Christmas tree. Decorated it alone. Surprisingly, it didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. There was a difference. Loneliness came from waiting for someone. Peace came from finally stopping. One afternoon, Grace stopped beside my desk. I have a question. Go ahead. She leaned against the door. Remember when you told me you didn't know how to heal? I remember. What do you think now? I smiled. I don't think healing happens all at once. She waited. It happens every time you choose yourself instead of your old pain. She nodded proudly. I couldn't have answered it better. Spring returned. The city slowly woke from winter. Flowers appeared outside cafes. People filled the parks again. Life looked brighter. One Friday afternoon, I left work early. No meetings. No deadlines. Just sunshine and fresh air. I walked through downtown, carrying a small bag from a bookstore. Halfway across a busy intersection, someone caught my attention. Olivia. She stood on the opposite sidewalk. A light brown coat covered her shoulders. Her hair was shorter now. She looked healthier than the last time I had seen her. Not happier, just calmer. Traffic continued moving between us. She noticed me almost immediately. Neither of us waved. Neither of us crossed the street. We simply stood there. Two people connected by memories instead of a future. A gentle smile appeared on her face. It carried sadness, but it also carried acceptance. I returned the smile, not because I wanted another beginning, because resentment no longer had a place inside me. The traffic light changed. People started walking. She turned left. I continued straight ahead. Neither of us looked back. That was enough. Back home, evening sunlight filled my apartment. I placed the bookstore bag on the table. Then I picked up my phone. One name still remained inside my contacts. Olivia. My thumb rested on the screen. Months earlier, deleting that name would have felt impossible. Now, it simply felt right. I pressed it. Delete contact? I smiled quietly. Yes. The name disappeared. Not the memories. Not the lessons. Just the waiting. Next came one final folder on my laptop. Old photographs. Hundreds of them. Vacations. Birthdays. Weekend walks. The music box. The beach. The apartment we once shared. I opened them one last time. Not to punish myself. To thank the younger version of me who had loved with everything he had. He wasn't foolish. He was honest. He simply loved someone who stopped choosing him. I selected the folder, moved it into my archive drive. Not deleted, not displayed, just placed where old chapters belonged. Closed. Finished. Remembered. The apartment had changed over the months. New artwork covered the walls. Plants stood near the windows. Books filled the shelves. Friends visited often. Laughter echoed through rooms that had once been painfully quiet. The place no longer reminded me of someone leaving. It reminded me of someone rebuilding. That someone was me. Later that night, I opened the balcony door. The city lights stretched across the skyline. A warm breeze drifted through the air. I thought about the man who had stood outside the charity gala, holding a handmade gift. He believed losing one person meant losing his future. He couldn't imagine life without her. He couldn't imagine peace without her voice. He couldn't imagine happiness without waiting. He had been wrong. Pain hadn't ended my story. It had rewritten it. Walking away hadn't been the moment I gave up. It had been the moment I finally stood beside myself. Olivia taught me something she never intended to teach. Love means nothing without respect. Loyalty means nothing if it only belongs to one person. And no amount of money can replace the quiet comfort of being truly chosen. I no longer wish karma on anyone. Life had already taken care of that. She had to live with the choices she made. I had the chance to live with the person those choices helped me become. That was enough. More than enough. I rested my hands on the balcony railing and watched the city breathe beneath the evening sky. Months earlier, I thought my life had ended with a packed suitcase, a cold dinner, an unread message, and an unopened gift. Now I understood those moments had never been endings. They had been directions. They had led me away from the man who begged to be loved and toward the man who finally understood his own worth. I once believed losing her would destroy me. Instead, losing her saved the man I was always meant to become.